Thanks, Bardo. Ash, let's.
And we'll definitely get to those. Like the first one I think is a good segue from Amol. Is that right? Amol Sharma? Yeah. Are you folks working full-time on Stoner Cats? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
24/7 almost.
Yeah.
More than most regular jobs, sometimes more than 2 regular jobs back to back.
Yeah, we are. Alan, you were working until 2 a.m. last night.
I don't know if I want to admit that.
Okay, well,
in this meeting,
just think,
but
this is an honest community. We're all up front because next episode is a Valley question, and part of the thing we want to do with the show and tell today is just talk about like what happens when you expand the scope of the show and you leave the house. So we really try to avoid spoilers. And I think we're pretty spoiler proof. You might get a few little hints and clues here, like where Baxter is going on that van. But yeah, we're working full time. Like we don't have other jobs. We've committed completely to this project, and we love it. That said, animation is just a very slow process, and we want to do it right. You keep hearing us say that, but we just don't want to dump something out. So let me share a screen. It'll be a lot more fun.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is like with your average animated show that's on TV, even ones that are cranking out, things what seemingly fast around, the thing that's not as apparent is the development time in the background, which is usually, from when a show is greenlit, technically. I have friends of mine who are working on What If for Marvel. They're doing seasons 2 and 3 right now. They have been on season 1 for 18 months to 2 years, and that's after the show has been greenlit. So all that writing, all that development, artwork, key things, character design, that's all happened before that 18-month period of time when they've started, and they just finished literally like a couple of weeks ago, the last episode. So just to say, so we kind of were halfway through that when we started all this, but we are doing our development while we're doing our show, which is why it seems like a bit like, what the fuck, man? Why isn't your goddamn episode coming out every time? It's sorry, because kids. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's an AM. No, it's an AM thing. I'm a PM person. So
we don't swear before noon. Is that the rule?
Somebody else's rule. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of throw that, like, just to show you why we're sort of where we're at. We keep saying all this stuff. It's not an excuse, just the reason and the legitimacies of sort of where we're at. But listening to some people talking about the shows that are on now that I'm watching, I'm like, all right, well, that makes me feel slightly better.
Would you say it's pretty common, Chris, for animation production in general? Like, there's usually that big ramp up time.
Yeah, I mean, like Space Jam as an example with pre-existing characters, Looney Tunes have been designed forever. They still have to, refine and pick which ones are going to be in this version of the movie. And we, I was on that film for 2.5 years, and the first 14 months was development and story refinement. And, those scripts were finger quotes greenlit to write that movie forward at $180 million plus 50%. To go ahead. So that's obviously like a strong commitment of trust that they're happy with, where they think it's at until you start to make it. And then you make refinements and it takes longer. But yeah, everything in animation is just, you can do anything, but you got to make everything. In live action, you find a location that you like. All of that is mostly built. You do some embellishments and you get to film, what you want. You can make up stuff and the turnaround is quite fast. Animation is, hopefully it looks like it's all happening naturally, but it's all very well planned. Anyway,
well, that's a good.
That's my TED talk.
Because are you seeing a blank screen here?
We are.
I'm seeing a blank screen.
Yeah,
This is exactly how we start.
That's exactly how we start. So as we're working up the episode 2 story, and we knew there would be an exodus not an exodus, but a character leaving the house. We had to start designing what we're going to see, because nothing, like Chris said, is already pre-drawn. Every cloud, every blade of grass, fence post has to be worked out. And so we start with the concept piece, make sure we kind of like the mood of it, the weather, all that stuff. So before we do anything 3-dimensional, we're just kind of doing I did a piece here, like probably in an hour to see if everybody liked it, who would dump on it, and everybody was pretty cool. So once we felt like, okay, we're gonna have to have a van kind of go through this environment, we had to start building everything you see here. So here's everything in that blank slate, but sky's easy to draw. Then we start drawing clouds, background, trees, fields, signs, fence post, more grass, a road, a tree, another tree, a water tower, a church, a courthouse. What time is it on that courthouse? Moving on.
Save the clock tower.
And so on and so on. So all these elements are then brought over to motion, and I'm going to switch over and show you how that looks. And by the way, this is only one new environment we had to build. We have four major locations, maybe 5, that all had to be built from scratch in the last several weeks before we could even think about beginning animation. Like, you can't put a camera somewhere if you don't. Did I do the wrong thing here? Can't put a camera until you have something to point it at. So motion, here we go. Are you seeing, why is it doing that?
It's censoring itself.
There we go, full screen?
Yep.
Now I start again with a completely blank world to build in, and I start to lay in all those elements. But now you got to keep in mind, this is a 3D environment, and I kind of work from back to front, laying all this in. And it looks a little flat right now, but it's actually 3D. Like, I'll take the camera through in a sec. Every little piece. Am I clicking fast enough? Somebody can talk. And
So Ash, I have a question.
Recite a poem? Yeah.
For the first step that you did, that was all done in Photoshop, like drawing all
Yeah,
the
that's right.
different
All
things.
those, yeah.
And then in this, you're importing all those elements, all the millions of layers you see on the left side of the screen there. You're importing that into this 3D program, correct?
Yeah, and it's a bit like, you remember the dumpster thing? I showed a time lapse of that.
Mhm.
This takes a long time to lay everything out, because you've got to put it like at the right place in the background, and like the road is, I'd already flattened it here, but it's an actual dimensional road, and it's got to be laid in just right. Once you do that, then I had this van, that we had a shot of the weed van in the first episode, but only from one angle. So I had to build all the parts of the van so that we could really shoot it from any angle, and parts of it are turned off here. But once you build it, and it takes a long time, then you do have the advantage of just letting it roll around. And so now Baxter's not really fully animated here yet, but the next part of it was just, now you can move that. Let me take the van away, and you can just see the environment that we're moving through. I don't even have everything turned on. Am I answering your questions? I don't know.
I would, it's neat to see, like, so placing the 2D art in 3D takes a special like arrangement, right? You have to make sure that you place it in a way so the church isn't like floating off into the sky, or water tower is like planted on the ground. So all that stuff has to be arranged carefully, would you say, in 3D?
It does, yeah. So it's almost like a set you could shoot from practically any angle. It's a virtual Lego model environment.
Right. That's
but
awesome.
You also have to kind of design for it. Like, I'll show you, I'll take the camera and break it now. Like the courthouse
digital backdrop.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, you can kind of go and shoot a lot of angles. You never draw anything that you're not going to see on camera. That's why it just goes to nowhere. Right, Lisa? Even in real life, live action?
That's where the director's there, like holding his head, going, "No,
Yeah.
it's not working."
My favorite is seeing Robert Downey Jr. wearing like half an Iron Man suit and then sweatpants underneath because he's only doing a mid shot and he ain't putting the rest of that suit on.
I think we're all like that now. That we're all in Zoom, so
Yeah, I mean, we're just like top up. It's the news anchor style of like, you're wearing shorts under that suit, aren't you?
I got jeggings on. One of the
I have to wear
questions.
pants since I'm in the office.
Nice. One of the questions on chat was, what do you use to draw in Photoshop? A Wacom tablet? Anything special?
It's a Cintiq, which is a Wacom product where it's a display that you can draw on directly with a stylus.
Those
And
are nice.
Yeah,
those are nice.
It is. The 22 HD, I believe it is.
I actually started using one of those for Avid as well, which is not common, but to be able to manipulate the timelines and things and move around, do like paint bits and pieces. So I think if you're going to invest in something and you are a little bit hands-on, it's actually a great tool to consider buying, and you can, practice drawing or doing things. But for other applications, if you have that problem of mapping like a tablet where you're drawing indirectly at the space, it's worth considering too. I think they're super cool.
So Chris, you would say for editing purposes, it's pretty awesome.
Not many people do it. I'm one of a handful of people. I've been wanting to try it for a long period of time. I just find it better to like get into things because I do a lot of dialogue manipulation, and it's kind of hard sometimes with the waves and things to map your mind because you're moving here. I mean, it's basic mouse stuff, but when you're getting more detailed, that disconnect can get a little bit harder. Whereas being hands-on and just pulling things up, doing things for me, can be a time saver. But it's a personal choice.
Nice.
I'll say too, if you guys don't want to spend that much money on a full Cintiq too, if at least there's a Wacom tablet, that'll at least give you like a digital drawing thing, where a Cintiq obviously is a monitor that you're drawing on for those who are playing at home. But the tablet itself is still at least something that'll get you a digital pen to keep going.
Yeah, and some of those are pretty cheap. Like you can pick them up secondhand for not a lot of money. Definitely worth getting your skills up.
Yeah,
and Wacoms last a long time. They're pretty sturdy considering. Like I feel like I punish my Cintiq quite a bit, and it never really, all the Wacom products I've had over time have never broken. They've just sort of been aged out by computer software and updates, but they've never really broken, in use.
We're sponsored by Wacom now.
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
The check is in the mail,
Woo-hoo!
apparently, but
We did it, guys.
It's like those podcasts that suddenly like pretend to like naturally insert products into what they're talking about, and you're like, you pre-recorded fucks. Sorry, kids. I'm sorry.
Kids.
I'll mute myself.
No. A couple of the little interesting things here that I geek out on. To get the speed I wanted on the shot, I actually animated the road going faster than the rest of the environment, so that you got a real kind of sense of danger, Baxter being right next to the asphalt. The other thing is like there's no true 3D here, so I can't rotate a tire and look at it from a lot of different angles. So to get a sense of a rolling tire, let me give an example of the one back next to his ear. Okay. The wheel's not really rolling. It's just a flat piece of art there. It's just not even art. It's a rectangle painted gray. On top of that is a long, like an image that I stretched out of the treads that are kind of motion blurred, and I just animate them moving down. So you get the illusion of a rolling tire once you put it all together. See if I broke it completely here. I'm just gonna revert. Any questions on like what we're looking at here? Whoa, that really reverted.
One of the things about animation is that everything is kind of cheated towards camera, for perspective and things. It's the most like non-literal, which is why everything is sort of so subjective. And when it's good, you don't know why it's good. It just means that the artist had a good point of view. When you look at animation, sometimes you're like, why is that not what I like? because it's subjective, and sometimes that person's point of view of something doesn't line up with yours. And in a literal sense, you know, a tire is a tire. Everything is what we're used to. It's just a different model. But animation, it's sort of like they're all choices that you have to consciously or subconsciously make when you're building all this stuff. Just a lot going on.
Yeah, and we kind of, for better or for worse, designed a bit of a complex style with the 3D environments and little attentions to detail that you don't see in a lot of TV series. And we just feel like we've got to maintain that bar. You know, all the little the pieces that are animated on the truck, the license plates jiggling a bit. You just want a life to the whole thing. We could have done a flat background and kind of did a zoom on it, but it would have felt kind of cheap. And
the more times that you do that, I think it feels cold and you're just waiting for the time to end because you're not visually engaged with what's there. And that's why some things feel like they play for longer, because there's just not enough holding your visual attention or tone. So as soon as you break that feel, I think as an audience, you're like, I'm hungry. What's in my fridge? What else is on TV? I'm gonna look at Facebook. Twitter's down again. God damn it. I don't understand Twitter.
Listen, Twitter survived.
That's the only one that survived.
There's some great questions there.
Yeah, let's move into them. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So
I
Ash,
say that like someone's gonna say it out loud.
for the speed of that you move down the road, do you
Mhm.
redrew or redraw? You drew or redraw the road? I don't.
Oh, don't redraw the road. If I just move the camera along the road and it is locked into the rest of the environment, it wasn't moving fast enough. So I animated the road moving like away from camera faster than the rest of the fields and the buildings were going. And it just, you know, you got to feel that asphalt and all the details of it going, like speeding past. That's how I did that. But
So the comment is that the road is moving down the road.
The road is moving down the road. It is.
Right.
It's, you know, it's sort of like when you're sitting in a car and you see like a lamppost go and it's far away, and then when it gets really close to your face, it goes really fast, you know? And that's the sort of all the work that Ash is doing in the shot to kind of give you that feeling that things are whipping by really fast. And the whole point of it is just to show that Baxter's in shit trouble. You know, he's under a car and he's like really close to asphalt. So that's what it's all for.
Kitten Impossible.
Yes.
And then why not?
Yeah, the
That's
wheels.
interesting.
Yeah, why? Because you didn't want to design the wheels to build 3D shapes. Is that the idea?
It wasn't I didn't want to, but
like it's a cheat, right?
everything's a cheat because everything is a flat image. Let me pull up another, like the shot based on that concept piece I showed you. There's no way to build. Not to say, you think of it like paper sculpture, where everything is a flat plane, and if you want to build a cube, that's pretty easy. It's 6 flat pieces of paper that you glue together. Here's motion. But a tire obviously has a ton of different surfaces, and I can make a square tire pretty easily, but to make a really round tire that works many angles, virtually, it would not be fun to do with a bunch of flat drawings. So
I think about like some of those.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say like those optical illusions, you know, where things move between like 30 degrees of movement axis, but then as soon as you go around the back, it's all just the back of cardboards and bits and pieces. But if you do one single thing, it works. It doesn't actually work as much, you know, for a literal piece sometimes in the optical illusion concept, you know, which I think is somewhat relevant to sort of what you're doing, the way that it's there.
Yeah, it really is. It's all an illusion. It's all everything you designed for the camera. Here's another, like, based on the concept. Now it's easy. The tires, you can't see them from pretty far away, but they're rolling. They're just a disc spinning, you know, rotating. But a lot of little other, I love throwing little details in that just enhance mood. And this is the kind of thing we love to do, is You may subtly see the shadows of clouds passing over the field, which is just an overlay, and then the background clouds drift a bit. And but this is a pretty flat drawing. Like I wanted a little bit of a bend in the road, and again, that would be hard to design in 3D. So I did a flat image that completely breaks once you ruin the illusion, but yeah, it really breaks fast once you move that camera out of position.
One of the things for the show that we wanted to do early on that we talked about was the sort of softened edges look that Ash has done. And part of that is sort of the brushes and the look. It's a lot more of a painterly look. And we were somewhat early on inspired by, there was a Pixar short called Kitball, which I really liked. And the simplicity and the charm of that visual that's in there, and which is that 2.5D kind of thing. We certainly didn't want to imitate what was already done, but we're like, man, that's really charming in a very simplistic way. It has so much personality in the visuals of it. Just to, you know, say words as to why we chose to go down this road versus just building things literally, which can be faster, but like I just keep saying, it just feels charmless. It's not creatively interesting for us, you know, both as creators and viewers. And this is why.
I'll say a super noob comment that's probably going to make Ash and Alan just totally cringe. But from a you know, growing up when you're watching Bugs Bunny or whatever, and I always used to notice that like the thing that was about to be moved. So if Bugs Bunny was about to pick up an object, it always looked different than the background. And I was like, what the hell? So I knew what was going to happen in the scene as a kid because I was anticipating the change in animation, which now I extrapolate as an adult and being in the industry of that means everything else was a flat painting, right? Is that right? Alan, did I teach myself something as a child?
You did.
Very perceptive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
when someone pulls a brick in the wall or something, and all the other
the one brick is like, you're like, that's the one that's going to get pulled. But that what I like about the difference in this is you saw Ash was like making the clouds move and there's shadows, and it's not, everything isn't static. So it feels alive. It doesn't feel like, oh, you just put a freeze frame picture screenshot and then animated a walk cycle of a character in front of it. It feels dynamic, it feels alive. And I think part of that is we've all kind of sort of come to this realization is we all mostly come from features. And so our instincts are to do movie storytelling and not necessarily just, you know, the cartoon TV show flat backgrounds and then just the characters and the things that they interact with or are moving. We're making what we feel like, and hope you guys also feel like, is like a cinematic piece, which is, you know, kind of ridiculous for something that is logline called Stoner Cats, 1, and 2 for a, you know, a 5 to 7 minute short is like, how are you putting that much cinematic quality into something? And it's because we care and we want to elevate, and why not do something cool as shit?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of ties into Caroline's question of like, from a content perspective, what amount do you think that the pull is the design versus the voice actors with the audience? You know, I think it's got to be all of those things. And I think that they're, you know, different projects are selling different things and have different kinds of quality that they're putting out and different focuses. And obviously we have like incredible artists on this team. And for us, the focus for us as a production company, our focus is to allow those artists to make the most masterly piece that they can make. And I do think that we all know, even if we're not like, I am not as an expert in animation like this team is. But I think you know the difference when you see something that looks kind of crappy and something that looks beautiful. And our goal here is that it's always look beautiful. And obviously we want to bring amazing voice actors too. But as somebody who spends a lot of time casting in Hollywood, sometimes the audience doesn't show up for people like you think they're going to show up for them. So that this is all, it's all a balance. And we want to bring amazing actors and amazing talent. But more than name, we want to bring amazing talent in. And we'll get into our voiceover contest. You guys are great. That voiceover contest was awesome.
Yeah, that was really hard to limit that down.
Really good. But the talent, the quality is number one on all of the fronts. And different projects will have a different look, but this is the look of Stoner Cats. and we're going to support our artists to make the best version of Stoner Cats that they can ever make. And so you're never going to look at episode 2 and episode 3 and go, well, it doesn't quite look great. We're not going to have that be the experience.
Yeah, and to that point is as far as the actors, driving the content is, we wrote our characters after developing them for quite a long time, but then once we cast them, it really shaped them in a direction where we're going, okay, we're not going to give crappy lines to Jane Fonda. Like, we're going to elevate because it's Jane Fonda. And it's true for the whole cast, but as an example. So it is hand in hand, is we want to have a bar of quality that's amazing. And then the talent comes in and elevates both in their performance, but also we want to rise to that challenge and match their abilities.
And also, we don't want to share our final project with Jane Fonda and Seth MacFarlane and Chris Rock and have them go, wow, that looks bad. We want them to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this is the most charming thing I've ever seen. So we in bringing in top level talent, we're not gonna give them bad animation with top talent.
And I was going to say, like, the way that I kind of equate what we're doing with 2D right now, it's kind of like the charm of everything that has worked before and the technology that we have access to now that people didn't have then, as an embellishment, but not as a replacement. And I kind of equated to the days of visual effects. When you watch a movie that there are physical models made and they're so cool, and even though in your mind they're not really, the tangibility of those things are really what grinds you to it. And you look at something like the director's cut, ultimate cut, or whatever of Blade Runner, and it's the models that you love with a slight 3D embellishment to them to enhance what's there. So it's using the technology to enhance what's there rather than the bad version, which is replacing everything that was built by hand with a CG version of it, and it looks like a dated cartoon in 10 years from now. So, like, conceptually, that feels like the balance that we're trying to hit versus, a completely 3D show, which is using state-of-the-art technology and everything that ages itself out potentially down the line, versus something grounded in the visuals of things that we know and love that are drawn by hand, that have that artistry to them with the enhancement and embellishments of the technology that we have for now.
And there was a question that was sent out earlier, which was, are you working on full-time on Stoner Cats?
That's why.
This team is working 5 full-time jobs on Stoner Cats. I mean, it's all anyone's doing all day long, from morning until night. It's all Stoner Cats. So yes, it's not like this is not the side job, y'all. This is the job.
Yeah, and being a smaller team, it means with less people, each person has to take on their job. If it was a regular movie, I would have 5 people working on my team for one of those jobs, and I do all those jobs. And then, we have our producer jobs, and we have our writer jobs, and then all the logistics in between, upkeep and things. So it's a lot. It's more than probably all or most of us expected, but it's been rewarding, so it's worth it. Just wanted to quickly do this. This is something that I got for Ash that I haven't given him yet.
Oh,
for all of his shows and everything that are in here. So
man, Chris, thank you.
That's so funny.
We never see each other in
my hair might look like that in a few weeks.
Let's see it. We'll get the Bob Ross competition, see if we can make it happen by Christmas.
It's funny when you were showing the clouds, the pretty clouds in the sky. That's immediately I started thinking about Bob Ross.
Oh,
when
happy
you were reading
trees. Happy trees.
A happy joint.
It's always a happy joint. This is
There's no way he wasn't stoned for at least some of it. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can't be great. Like, we can't express enough gratitude to everybody for letting us do this. We would never be able to kind of put our own mark on a project like this without you. We think about that every day.
Yeah, in a grown-up production, people would say, you're taking too long, make it less good, make it faster. And they would just force it to be. And that's why not everything, but many things that you see are not as good as you think they could be, they should be, or they promise to be, is because the urgency of that stuff just happens. And they're like, I don't give a shit what it looks like, just fucking crank it out. Sorry, kids. We're trying to make that balance. Like, we're not trying to be, overtly unnecessarily artistic when you're like, okay, now you're just wasting your time, just do it. So we're trying to find that balance of, when we get what we need to do and move on. As artists, we would probably tweak things forever, as you would. So we set our own internal deadlines, and Lisa helps us with that.
But yeah,
Not that much.
in a
But-
good way. It's really healthy.
The only way I help is that I go, could you do that in less time? So that's what I ask. That's my.
Do you have to?
Right. Right.
But anyway, it's
I do want to jump in and just answer a couple questions that came in
Yeah.
earlier about Honey Ronin, which we are not the people to answer those questions.
Yeah.
Just because we are all like full on focused on stoner cats, but I know there are a lot of questions on some big head questions, and we should let big head answer big head questions. There is a question on how do future NFTs like this affect stoner cats performance. We hope that they increase stoner cats performance. It's all we all want to service each other, service them, they service us. We all work together to make a big, happy, wonderful, messy ecosystem. So that's sort of that. But on the specific questions, you guys should jump in with Max sometime when he's in.
Yeah, and the more content like this that gets made in this sort of platform world, I mean, you know, I don't know what the future holds, but there could be some, you know, all-encompassing collaboration where, you know, people can pool their stuff together. There's a reason that this content's on this platform, not public. Sometimes it's legalities or logistics or things, but as things sort of come together, you know, more of a library of stuff happens, you know, the possibilities are kind of endless. And, you know, that's why I can't predict the future, but the more the better, because the more it legitimizes what we're doing and the more content that's here, the more people will start investing in crypto and coming into this space and feeling more confident because other people have done it before. No one wants to be the trailblazer and lose. So, you know, that's what, you know, we're not paving, but, you know, helping push in that direction, hopefully.
Without a doubt, I totally agree with what Chris just said. And I mean, there are more people coming in, there are more projects that are coming this way. And I think everybody will realize that like our NFT project is a little different than others in that we are making this show, and that the show is primary for us. It's a huge part of it for us. And that it's not easy to make a show. It doesn't come out in a minute. So appreciate the support. And when I see all the support that I know, like, you know, we've got some really amazing hardcore Stoner Cats community members who are just like, they're supporting us all day long, and we just so appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of you guys showing up today is super, super amazing. Like Ash said, like we're so grateful to be here. Like I'm just happy to be here. But genuinely, like I'm thrilled to be here to be able to do this project, and you guys giving us the avenue to do it and supporting us and being involved. And it's a really cool community. And yeah, there's a lot of fudders and whatever, but none of them are in this call, which is what's great. And you guys are the OG, the real deal. So we love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a microcosm of society. It's like there's people that are doing things for the right reason that are excited, and there's someone that's just angry with the world and they're going to be shitty about everything. Like, what can you do?
You're never going to please everyone. It's not going to happen. And that's okay. Like we understand that is the internet in one sentence. So that's good. Segueing, there's a comment, is there room for a motion graphics designer for the team? We don't have a specific job needs on any given day, but we're always looking to get more people on board and see what our needs are and see where we're lacking. So we always want to hear from people. So I'm not sure which email you should reach out to for that. Maybe Puff Puff Pass is... Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Acid Man. If you have a demo reel or something like that,
yeah,
you could send. And this applies to anybody. Like,
agreed.
I'm Acid Man. I'll share it in the chat.
Perfect.
Oh wait, where's Acid Man? Hey, Acid Man.
I mean, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do this because it's a great segue. So, finalists for the VO audition for episode 2. Was
everyone's
really
like,
challenging.
That's why we came here.
Yeah, everyone's like, get to the part.
Oh yeah.
So it was really hard. We had well over 100 submissions, and they were all really, really good and really funny. Like I genuinely was laughing. We all were like getting a kick out of it. So it's really going to plus the show. Enough preamble, Sarah. So in no particular order, we have top 3 finalists that we will go through and then pick a winner probably later this week. So the top 3 for delivery guy in no particular order are Alex Barone, Miro Calderon, which is also Acid Man, right? And Trevor Blish. those are our top three. And then for the employee, we actually have three ladies who really rose to the top, which was, again, no particular order, Vanessa Contreras, Shelly Beeman, and Yasmina Siddiqui. So we'll be getting out to you guys with emails. I don't know if you're on this call. If you're not, we'll make sure there's a Discord blast and you'll get emailed. And we're going to make sure we verify NFT token holders as well, because that is the criteria for the contest. So congrats on making it to the round.
Yeah, congratulations, everyone. And thank you all for sending stuff in. We honestly didn't know if we were going to get 5 people or a couple of people or whatever the deal is. Is it people's, butt phone records? Is someone just doing silly voices, or are people going to take it seriously? And it was harder than, we expected in a good way.
Yeah, you guys are great. Like I couldn't believe how many good auditions there were. I mean, to be fair, we had well over 100 auditions, and every single one of them was like, well, I could use that. Yep, we could use that. Like there was almost nothing that was not usable. It was really amazing.
And to that point, we've all internally had this discussion this morning, and not in any official capacity, but we all went, well, we have a pretty good talent pool to pull from if we would like to cast more characters in future episode for ancillary characters. So it's also, even if you didn't make the finalist, that doesn't mean that you're out. We may be like, hey, you weren't right for these roles, but you're better for this. So also don't despair if you weren't into the finalist group, because you guys are great.
Yeah, and of course we won't volunteer anyone. We'll ask if anyone wants to do future voices of things that are there, and if you want to use the submissions you already have, then obviously we'll keep those on file and keep records of everyone. But yeah, we're hoping to do more of this stuff. I mean, the whole point of this was a collaboration with everyone who's part of this community for any contribution that you can do, putting people's things in the background, graffiti names on walls, whatever we can come up with. It seems like it's fun for you to have a fingerprint on here, voice obviously wherever plausible, and we can hire more actors and have people not related to it. But it seems cooler to have a line or something. Sarah's in Spider-Verse. I'm sure I'm somewhere in some of the shit that I've made, but like it's fun to just remember you're like, oh, that's me. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool. We could do a crowd. We could crowdsource something, have people do some chants and have
crowd background stuff. And also we had this thought, and Ash, I don't know if you want to talk about the design of the delivery guy.
Yeah, well, he or she hasn't been designed yet, but we thought this is optional for whoever is selected. If you'd like it to be a caricature of yourself,
I can draw
we can do that. So again, once we do the selection and all that, we'll verify. We'll follow through on that, but just wanted to plant that seed out there for you.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, on the any more news on the Dreamscape next week, guys?
Yep, we're finalizing the form and getting our ducks in a row. If you know, you know. But yeah, so that'll be coming next week. So we'll get the official winners of the VO by end of week, and we will announce the full rules of the Dreamscape contest. And hopefully there'll be a much bigger time. I'm not spoiling anything, but you'll have much more time to do that. It'll be a longer window to work on your animation. So it's not going to be a big rush. So we have a little bit more time for you guys to work on that. So we'll figure that out next week.
Is there a chance that you could hear the audition tapes? What do you think, guys?
That might be up to some of the people.
We'll need consent from that. But yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, most actors, even pro actors that do audition tapes, don't always want those to be sort of leaked out. So I wouldn't volunteer it without, the consent of whoever.
Agree, but maybe we can get consent from at least our finalists.
Yeah.
See if they're interested.
And if anybody's curious from a criteria as how things were selected, the thing that's different with animation in normal act, like first of all, there's acting period. So if you've not done any acting period, it's going to be a weird thing to like project outside of yourself. But for VO, you know, a lot of people, even in the industry, everyone's like, oh, we want to do an Aubrey Plaza. We want to have a dry read and that dry sarcasm. And then when you record that dry sarcasm, you're like, wow, that's boring as shit. It just doesn't translate to screen the same way that you can read like the expressions and the nuances in someone's face that you don't get in animation necessarily. So if you felt like, man, I really performed and I don't understand, like I really, you know, hit my marks or whatever, if you come from an acting standpoint, it's a different type of projection in the way that your voice reads, so to speak. And sometimes it's not necessarily like, oh, I performed it perfectly and that's the take and we're going to use that. It's that we'll hear something in your voice and your cadence and we'll say, oh, that can be directed in a certain way. We could shape that into a performance that will work for animation as opposed to live action. So it's something to think of if you start to listen to, maybe if you watch some animation and then watch some live action and try to see if you can hear the difference in a performance of the nuance that you hear in live action, seeing their faces versus you're only going off of a voice really, because the visual animation of lip sync is not going to give you a performance as much as obviously a human would on live action. So food for thought.
And it can be a problem with celebrity casting sometimes because the name might be a great idea and you get really excited about it. And I have personally worked with several big actors that are not difficult to direct, but difficult to get an animation performance out of because they're just not naturally inclined that way. And they don't understand because they're reading it like a theatrical actor, a thespian, and they're reading it in a very like, the funny part is there was one actor that I worked with semi-recently who wanted to do the entire scene top to bottom every time. The problem with that is that you naturally run out of gas there and you're not performing against another human. So you're not actually elevating your performance because you've got nothing to read against, just a cold room. And what we tend to do in animation is we might do that to warm them up. We punch up with variation for each line to find the best combination of variations per line to build a performance. And then you bring another character in and you have to artificially create a back and forth. In this case, the delivery person will be having a natural sounding back and forth with Jane Fonda. And we need to find out which voices are going to best complement that back and forth. So it isn't even particularly about the performance. It's very particular about what we think is the best, funniest interaction between two vocal performances and what variations we can contrast between it. Becomes a little bit like infinite combinations when you're doing that kind of thing. That's my TMI for the day.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, can we have background? Yeah, so that's something that we were talking about is like background crowds or things like that. If it's something called wallow, which is just that sort of like hubbub, that it's not distinguishable voices, but it's noise and people talking. So that's something that we could do is have people in crowds and backgrounds. So, and we can pull from this pool, we can open up again. Obviously, I think for my preference, anyone who is in this but didn't make the cut will be our first choice to put for crowd stuff. But yeah, I'm totally open to it. So I think it's a great way to keep our token holders involved. I think we've hit all the questions in Zoom. We've hit all the questions in the sheet. Does that mean we should open up for some Zoom questions people have? Yeah, you guys think? Yes.
I'm all good for that. I always
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got?
All right.
Shoot.
Somebody.
Otherwise, we'll just keep talking shit, which we can do.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can just ramble forever. We're good.
You ask me a simple question, I'll give you a complex answer unnecessarily.
I think voice acting is really hard. I was working on this show called Happy Tree Friends, which is
Love
basically
Happy Tree Friends.
you know, I was directing episodes and animating on it as well. And if you don't know, it's this YouTube show where these cute little animals that look like Care Bears get maimed and mutilated horribly and die. So that's basically the punchline.
Wasn't that
And
on Cartoon Network or something?
I'm sorry, what?
Wasn't that on Cartoon Network?
It might have been. It started on.
Started on YouTube.
It started
yeah.
on the World Wide Web before YouTube. if you
Oh
can
yeah,
believe
that
it.
was like Newgrounds or
Yeah, Newgrounds or something crazy, right?
yeah,
And
eBaum's World OG.
yeah, and then it Shockwave. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, but pre-YouTube, primordial times. And yeah, I remember one time the creator of the show, Ken, he's a very good friend of mine. He said, "Hey, do you want to do a voice on the show?" And I'm like, okay. And he said it's just like guttural screaming and cute sound effects. So I didn't actually have reading lines. And I got in front of that mic and I got so nervous doing it. It's really nerve-wracking to kind of do a read. It's different than, when you say a line, or if you're reading a script and you're just reading it, it's okay. But when you're in front of that mic, the dynamics change. So I admire anyone that can do, good voice acting. I think it's really challenging.
I did voiceover many, many years ago and did, just for some pals, did a few episodes of Robot Chicken for fun. And
Nice.
it was, it's fun. You guys, it's super duper fun as long as you don't mind making a total ass of yourself. Because also there's no way to like be a voice actor and like be like this the whole time. So you really do have to like go for it. And with Robot Chicken, I was playing other characters that were like, I did like Jessica Rabbit and Jamie Summers and stuff. So it was
That's
voice
awesome.
match, which is a little bit harder and a little kind of a different experience. But you just got to go and like give a lot of options, make an ass out of yourself, and hope that they cut you together well, because that's the whole key to performance in animation is, are you going to get cut together in a way that makes some sense?
Wow. And so when you say voice match, does that mean like you're doing the dialogue after the animation's created? So you're watching the
No,
animation play, or?
I was trying to do like it was Jessica Rabbit, so it was like
An
trying to do
impression.
a
Oh,
version
I
of
see.
Jessica
A
Rabbit.
voice
And
match. Got it.
the
Got it.
Bionic Woman, so I was trying to match like the Bionic Woman's voice. So they like play it for you twice, and you're like, that's about where it is. Let's go.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
We could do a whole thing on voiceover stuff. It's super fascinating. There's a couple of super heavy hitter players, which is Tara Strong, who is Miss Minutes.
Tara, yeah.
She's amazing. Jess Harnell is another guy. And I remember we were on a movie that got shelved, which is so upsetting at Paramount. But Jess Harnell was playing a grumpy old man. He was doing Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, and he can just jump into voices so easily. He's like, oh, just pull up a clip on YouTube and pop it into my headphones. And he's like, one more time. And then he did a run of Jack Lemmon versus Walter Matthau as a conversation with himself. It wasn't even like, I'll do all the Walter Matthau and then I'll do the Jack Lemmon. He just like bounced between. And then in between takes, he would just like break into Pee-wee, and it was just unreal.
And the big secret, guys, big actors don't do their own ADR. Other people come in and do their ADR.
What?
Yeah, doubles and efforts and bits and pieces. There's this guy named Ross Marquand who I really like.
Oh, he's great. He's on Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, he's an actor as well as a voice actor, and he took over for Hugo Weaving, who didn't want to come back for Red Skull in the Avengers movie. So Hugo Weaving did Red Skull and Captain America. Ross Marquand did the voice and physical performance in Endgame, and he's done a lot of voices in What If, and his stuff is great. Like I listened to it, and I'm like, I had to check the credits because I wasn't totally sure. I think actually an example of that, not to pimp What If, it's Disney and they don't need the money, but I have friends of mine that worked on it. But the voice work on that's really good because it's really hard to tell which actors came back to do their roles and which actors got replaced by an equivalent voice actor. And there are a lot of, great movie, TV actors that also do great voice work. That's super rare. Mark Hamill's obviously, the king of that kind of stuff. But his is a little bit more specific. I don't know how well his impersonations of things are, but vocal versatility is like a unique, phenomenal skill.
Because it's one thing that all of us can like quote somebody doing like, I'll be back, right? You could all do your terrible Schwarzenegger and say the line that he says, but can you make Schwarzenegger voice say something else? And Ross Marquand does I think it's a Vanity Fair thing where he just says famous lines from movies, but in different actors' voice. So like Christopher Walken and like, I don't know, like The Shining or something that mixes everything up, but he knows the cadence of everybody. So it's definitely worth Googling Ross Marquand of his impressions. Chris, can you explain ADR a little bit more?
Yeah, before
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I was
go,
saying
Ash.
that, like, I'm just reading some of the other questions, and there is, I think, some demand for a session about voiceovers.
Oh yeah. Do you want to
Great.
do that? Just want to let's table this and do a full top to bottom about the dialogue and how that works in cutting.
Yeah, I
And,
think-
and we can add and talk about music and sound effects and things as well. I mean, it's basically the
Do an
counterpoint to
audio.
what
Yeah.
Ash has done to the picture. We can talk about the audio if you want, and why things don't always sound the same, and what we do, because it's the same thing with sound. Once you get into things like Foley, the things that it's like half a tennis ball clapped together to sound like horses sometimes. Like the sounds that you hear aren't literally the sounds that are associated with the visuals that you see more often than not. We did a turkey waddle sound, and we used a flappy balloon and some other stuff at Skywalker when we're there. And I don't do Foley on this right now yet. I might get to it at some point. Right now we're using a library of stuff, but yeah, we can talk about that whenever.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about your process, Chris, with the sound effects. And then Rolf Kent is happy to get on and join one of these calls and talk about
Yeah, our
scoring
composer.
for Stoner Cats.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so because I see, that was a question. What?
Yeah, about music and
Yeah, musical, and then so that would be great.
The shorthand answer is we build the show the same thing we do with dialogue. We use temp voices, we use temp sound effects, we use temp music, just to prove that it's going to work, and then we make it better with professional versions of that stuff as we go along.
What's our current inventory?
what was that?
I think someone's on a call.
That'd be the
Oh,
balance
wow.
sheet.
Yeah,
It's
Balance sheets
10,000
and
units.
inventory.
That's our current inventory.
Oh, and by
Find
the
more.
way, everybody used to have good crafty until COVID, y'all.
Yeah.
Crafty COVID really, really killed our crafty game.
I have a question regarding the VO process.
Yeah.
Like, so the main talents, do they record hearing the other talents voiceovers, or are they listening to temps? Everybody's listening.
Neither. They're working in a complete vacuum. And the only context they have is what we give them. We try to describe the setting and who they're talking to and how far away that person is. And then it's up to their imagination to kind of fill the gap. It's really, really hard.
Same thing with music. Like if we use temp to build the cut, we don't give that to our composer because we don't want it to affect his choices. I don't want my version of what could be in there. Like I tend to overdo everything musically when I build the show just to make sure it amplifies the moments for my little, chicken brain. But I don't want that to affect the actual score that's in there. Example, between our two sensibilities, Rolf has such a gentle and soft hand to undertone all these things and let the visuals and animation play in a way that I don't have the confidence to do musically. And I would never want what I do to affect what he's doing. Same thing with voice talent. Some voice actors just like, tell me how you want me to say it, and I'll say it and get out. That's not our team. And, ideally not anything that you work on. So we, Mila has to hear it because she's also a producer on the show and she's got to give notes on the show as a global thing. So she can give a shit on the side. But everyone else, we give them the scripts and we let them, give us their version of the character and then guide them in a way that is specific to what we need or something new that comes out of the session.
But not to undercut how much the direction during the record matters, because you have to have something to cut together that makes some sense. Because if one character is reacting to another character and character A is here and character B comes in here, that doesn't necessarily always play well. So we talk about this in movies all the time, is performances are made in the edit, and the vocal performances are made in the edit too, and also with that amazing gentle direction that that this team provides. I mean, I've seen them do it and it's like, they're real good, guys. They're real good.
Well, since you mentioned like it's the edit's going to like take care of like how it feels and everything. So does that mean that edit comes before like the final animation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're editing before we touch anything. Before we even draw a piece of art, we want to make sure that scene or that bit is going to be in here. As an example, we don't do it all the time, but in this next episode, we had a whole little chunk of stuff that we ended up lifting both for time and pacing with the edit that we had written and designed as part of the episode. And it's not like we didn't want to make more episode, it just didn't feel right in the context of it. So we kind of adapted some of those ideas and then restructured it. I mean, that's the secret mystery of animation in general. People are like, oh, you edit animation, great. You just put the pieces together. I'm like, well, who decides what those pieces are? Like on an animated film, I'll work for 2 years before animation starts, just to design everything out, test the script out, rewrite the script more often than not, rebuild the entire thing. And then we change it as it evolves as well, but by a much smaller margin. So we do massive changes. The shorthand is the earlier you can make your changes on the page in a rough animatic, whatever it is, the cheaper it is. The farther into production you make your changes, the more expensive it is, the more time it takes. So part of our process here is we fumble and change early, lock down our choices, everyone's good handshake, and we make that thing within a margin, shape it up, make it cool. And that's the process. And that's what everyone assumes happens. Not the case in actual productions. More often than not, you go like, yeah, it's close enough. Let's just go. It happens in live action as well. You shoot a half thought out script and then you see the film cut together and you're like, well, this sucks. Guess we better reshoot it. Can't do that in animation. You would delay by 2 years.
Well, thank you for your answers. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. We're at 12. I think that is probably our time, but this has been informative too, to see maybe what the gaps are in your guys' understanding of the process so that we can fill in those gaps and have calls on those, because that seems like that is interesting too. So we'll pull all this information, and we appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
hope we answered everything more than you asked for.